I can always turn it on.
I don't think it's it. You're busy.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Celina Board of Education. We actually have two things on our agenda, kind of two separate meetings tonight. Before we have our regular scheduled meeting, we do have a public hearing that I would like to call to order at this time. This is a public hearing on the IDEA program for public participation and comment. Dr. Ken, would you please explain just briefly what the IDEA program is, and then if anyone's here to comment on it, we'll have that.
Sure. With our special education services, we do have Special Education Director Tracy Dameyer here. Tracy, I don't know if you wanted to make any comments.
I would just have to hold the public hearing for our federal funds that we receive from the government. So we receive funds for school-age children and funds for preschool students.
It is pretty much a box that we need to check off that we did allow the public to have this open opportunity to comment about our special education services.
And of course, I know I speak for the board. The public is welcome at any of our meetings, not just this one if they ever have any issues. So this is the formal time to do that. So at this time, I would welcome any comment or input from the public. Seeing none, we will call this public hearing to a close. And again, reemphasize at any point, any member of the public is free to come speak to our board. At this time, I would like to call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education and Public to order. This is a meeting for conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for the public participation as indicated in the agenda. Let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance before we roll call. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tom, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Flack.
Present.
Mr. Sell. Here. Mrs. Gingrich.
Here.
Mrs. Voorhees.
Here.
Mr. Huber.
Here. Mr. Flack, before we move on, we do have an addendum to add for the consensus agenda. Under the classified report, item number 7, we have a resignation to add. And in the certified report, we'll add 7A to offer a new hire. And there were also some changes made within the agenda. Under personnel, number 2 and 5 have been stricken. Under number 7, under the certified, does add 1-year contract to that language, that item. And then if you turn back under number 14A, 2 changes. Joel Trissel in place of Katie Brodigan, and Mary Blair in place of Angela Fisher.
Okay, the board should have the addendum to the consensus agenda. It's also at the top of the board meeting online. Anything else before we move to set the agenda? At this time, I'd entertain a motion to set the agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Sell and Ms. Voorhees. Go ahead, Tom.
Mr. Sell. Yes. Mrs. Voorhees.
Yes.
Mr. Huber.
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich.
Yes.
Mr. Flack.
Yes. Dr. Ken, I did not see our sheet. Do we have anyone signed in to address the board today?
We do not.
Okay. So we do not have anyone. We'll move past the reception of the public at this time. I'll entertain approval of the consensus agenda. Motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Huber and Ms. Voorhees. Okay, Tom, at your pleasure.
I'm asking you to approve the minutes of the June 21st regular meeting and the June 30th and July 9th special board meetings. Asking you to approve the June 2021 financial summary report showing revenues of just over $3 million and expenditures of just under $4 million. Approve the investment control report for June of 2021 with the balance at $11.143 million. Asking you to approve the SM2 report for June of 2021. Approve the checks written in June of just over $3.4 million. And then lastly, the acceptance of the donation of worth $500 for a leveling laser from Joe Rose Construction to the TriStar Construction Program.
Any questions for Tom? Everything looks pretty boilerplate this month. Any comments, Tom?
Not at this time.
Thank you to Joe Rose Construction for a nice donation.
Dr. Kent, let's move forward with the classified report, please.
There we go for personnel, classified personnel. First, we're asking you to accept the resignation of Jennifer Brueggemann, cafeteria worker at the primary building. And we're asking you to approve a change of contract for Janine Berkey, family advocate. She's requesting a 1-hour deduct on the days listed, and then 2 days she is requesting deduct days for the entire days, July 9 and July 12. Number 3, we're asking you for a change of contract for Craig Broering, moving over from the maintenance department over to assistant mechanic at the bus garage. It was effective June 1st. We have a 60-day probationary contract for Kristen Hood as a teacher assistant for Head Start, effective August 16th. Item 6, recommend to hire Kathy Chilcote as a summer worker. And from the addendum then, number 7, asking to accept the resignation of Kate Laffin, who is a teacher assistant at the middle school.
Any questions for Dr. Kent on the classified report? Okay, let's move to certified, please.
Thank you. Number 1, asking you to approve to accept the resignation due to retirement of Joan Coops. Joni has 37 years of service. And asking also to accept the resignation of first grade teacher Lindsay Wermeyer, accept the resignation of Alexa Dunlap, accept the resignation of the CIS principal Jen Burney, accept the resignation of Kent Wicker, JV girls soccer coach. And then for hires, we would like you to approve the hire of Tim Busher, a 3-year contract at $65,000 per year. Number 7, approve to hire Emily Beaning, a 5th grade ELA teacher at the intermediate building. And then on the addendum, we're asking you to approve the hire of Jenna Guggenbiller Cup as 5th grade ELA teacher at the intermediate building. And number 8, for summer enrichment, asking you to approve Kelsey Johns. Number 9, we have stipend payments for the Innovative Strategies Grant. Phil Metz, Renee Kramer are both here. I don't know if you would mind making some comments about all the work that was done in respect to the Innovative Strategies Grant.
Not at all. That was a grant that we applied for. It's on its 2nd year, finishing up on its 2nd year. I believe it was $125,000. I worked with Vaughn and Tracy, Steve Stewart and I. And basically it was a foundation for the coffee shop. It's what really got our equipment and got our coffee shop in place there in the high school. And then there was some additional money. So there were some other, there was different areas we used it for our district strategy with the assessment capable learners. We used it with Tracy had her intervention specialist with the student med IEP program. We did some career exploration with the money. So there were a lot of different things that we had done with it. At the end of this year, we had to get it, the balance of the grant spent, so we organized some professional development. I had a couple of staff members that put together a couple different programs for teachers to voluntarily take part in. So we did a day, a prom day. We had freshmen and sophomores, so we had I forget what we called it now. It was an activity day. It was about getting these kids to work together. I can't think of it right now, but a challenge day. Thank you. It was a challenge day where all the kids came together to work on different challenges as a group. So it was intentional that they were not with their friends; they just worked with others. So they were talking through how to, work through these challenges. So we had several teachers step forward and said, "Hey, I'll throw together a challenge. They can do this here." So there was some of that, and then we went on and we did some professional development here after the end of the school year. Where everybody came in and just shared some great ideas, some technology ideas, some Oh, golly.
Team building and
Team building
leadership.
initiatives, yeah. Lots of different things that they brought. The math department got together. They worked on some things that, they brought new calculators and, some, to stay current in their, in their area. So we did a lot of different, professional development, I guess. And it was amazing. So we had, that grant, our advisor suggested we put it into stipends. We pay out stipends to people that participate in that professional development. So we took one on that.
So will this be retired now, Bill?
Yes. Yeah, that's the end of it. Yep. Yeah, they asked if we wanted to continue the grant. Yes. Correct. You're asking.
Yeah, I just meant the grant.
Yes. So they asked if we wanted to continue, and there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to keep it going. So we, along with several other schools, declined this year.
Go with the coffee shop going, that was the big piece, and so once it's up and running.
It was a big piece. Yes, it was a big piece. It had to be sustainable, which it is. So
Great.
yeah, it was awesome.
Perhaps a bigger piece, I don't know, Tracy wants to comment about the student-led IEPs. That was a huge part of that grant as well.
Yeah, we're really working with our students to develop them to be use self-determination skills and self-advocacy skills. So, in the past, a lot of times when we have IEP meetings, the teachers would take the lead and do a lot of the explaining. Well, we want to kind of reverse that, where we want students to really talk about their strengths and know their weaknesses, what they need to do to be a successful, employed adult when they go out into the competitive work world. So we're really working on teaching them self-determination, self-advocacy skills in the classroom, and then using that also during their IEP meeting, and using it when they're, talking with other teachers at the high school about, assignments or just, things that they need to make up. So, we're kind of equating it to, this is like a job interview, kind of when you sit down at your IEP meeting and talking about, what you do well and, what you think you need to still work on and things like that. So it's been really nice. The parents have really enjoyed seeing it too, seeing their child be more involved in those meetings and, just take on some of that responsibility, which is great. So it's good to see. We're going to still continue with that and hopefully improve and get better and use it a lot more in the younger grades too.
As a former IEP kid, one of the hardest things about those meetings was your teachers and your parents disappear into a room, and then
You're like,
they
"What
come
are we
out and they
talking
tell you
about?"
what your next year's gonna look like.
Yeah.
And I remember being in tears as a kid, younger kid, because I had no say in anything.
Right.
And I was completely left out of the process, where I felt like I excelled. Well, the test said you didn't excel there, so sorry. And luckily I have wonderful parents who brought me in, but giving the students a voice in their education as it is theirs is a wonderful opportunity, because again, that was always one of the hardest things, because I was ready to ditch the IEP. The IEP was not ready to ditch me, but I never had a say in that. They would just disappear into a room and come out and let me know what the next year of my education was going to look like. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yep. The students really need a voice in that.
Yeah, they don't always get a vote, but they should have a voice, for sure.
Yes. Truly wonderful after a year that COVID gave us this past year, that we still have staff members after the year's over saying, hey, yeah, if I can do some more here to better myself, I'm still looking forward to it. So the next two items as well, number 10, the July Math Curriculum Camp, and then number 11, the Celina High School Summer Professional Development Curriculum Camp. Vaughn, I don't know if you wanted to make any mention or talk about those items.
The number 10 dealt with the big ideas curriculum. Our second grade team decided that they wanted to get together to meet, just kind of review the year and reflect on some future practice. So they met on early July. And then number 11 there deals with, this was a federally funded grant that was awarded to the high school, and it kind of worked hand in hand with the professional development series that was offered at the high school. These are all high school teachers that came in and did some professional development. With this, it was just paid out of a different grant. Same line of work, just we paid for it in a different way. So that's those two PD pieces.
We've been working in the past, I know we approved 5 additional extended days for our literacy coaches. And it's great to see them continuing to come in, enjoying their experience, working don't know if you want to talk about any of that here at this point too, with the two coaches they're working with.
Yeah, they've done, our literacy coaches, the 4 of them have done around 10 days worth of work. They just finished up some work with Margot Ship out of Wapakoneta, the SST6, working on how we're going to do our teacher-based team meetings and giving a structure to those. And then also they're working on how to be coaches. All 4 of them are coming right out of the classroom. So we're going to help them with some transition work and some support throughout the year to help them make that switch of working with students to working with adults and students along the way. So they've been grateful and for the time and the opportunity to work with some experts in the field.
Where are they going to be based out of? What facility?
They're going to have,
Rove.
they'll kind of have some office space, and our principals can maybe talk a little bit more about this, but they'll have an office space in each building. More than likely, they'll share with another coach to where they can have some time to reflect and talk each day. But yeah, they'll each have a nice space to work from.
Number 12, we're asking you to approve a stipend payment of just over $2,300 for summer enrichment for Vaughn Ray. Number 13, we're asking for the extended days for 2021, 2022, that school year with those number of days. Page 4, number 14, we're asking you to approve the department heads. Again, we had those 2 changes. Joel Trissel in place of Katie Brodigan, Mary Blair in place of Angela Fisher. Under letter B, we're asking you to approve the grade level chairs that are listed. Under number C, we have the list of advisors. On page 6 is number 15, the pupil activity program. Leaders are listed there.
What is the FBLA?
Business leaders.
Future business leaders.
Business, okay. Any questions for Dr. Ken on the certified report here? Okay, let's move forward to the resolutions. Number 1's a pretty big one, so Dr. Ken, why don't you explain that?
Yeah, we've been working with the city in regards to bringing on a school resource officer for this coming year. So attachment number 5 is the agreement and also the contract for the provision of a school resource officer to the city of Celina City of Celina schools by the City of Celina's police. So that wording came directly off of that document. So we're asking you to approve those 2 documents in attachment number 5.
Just to be clear, the officer has not been selected who will be the resource officer. This is the first step to selecting that officer, that's correct?
I believe they have it down to a select few. They may have made their selection, but we're not aware of that selection yet.
Did we have a say in who was chosen?
We did, yes.
Okay.
So we did give a short list of names of some folks that we were interested in. And
Okay. So these are probably their current officers within the
that
city?
is correct,
So-
experienced officers.
So it's not someone that we're bringing in from outside the city?
Correct.
Okay. Any idea on when they would be chosen and then, well, obviously they'd start at the beginning of the year, but
We do have a council member in attendance that I don't know how prepared he is to make any statements. But when is the next city council meeting?
That'd be next Monday.
So I'm not sure that it would be that soon, but they were aware that we were planning on moving forward here, so
okay.
And this is paid for by a grant, correct?
it is
Paid for, the schools are paying for this.
we are reimbursing the city. The city's actually paying and then we are reimbursing costs
And
there.
those funds are coming from.
So we're about paying 75% of the costs, but again, these funds are coming out of the ESSER funds, so not from our general fund.
How would that work hourly? If a police officer's hours are 8 hours a day And the school is obviously less than that, especially now with the dismissal time different.
Well, you look at, they're not only going to be at one school building, so if you look at the hours of our district.
Okay.
And I haven't seen it either, but will they be spending the lion's share at the high school, or is it?
That's where their main home office will be, but they certainly will have a presence at all buildings. Now, we do have sheriff's deputies also at the intermediate and middle school doing the DARE program, so they're in regular attendance there. But this officer will also support the DARE programming. Michelle, you'll be fine with an officer walking through your building as well? Sure. Yes, okay. And Head Start kiddos also. I mean, they're always happy to see them. And
I mean, that's one of the big things for the community. I think sometimes they hear, oh, police officer. One of the best things we can do is develop a bond between the police and the young people of the community to hopefully avoid issues down the road. And let's be honest, all of us as adults, when we hear police are out running radar, we maybe take it down a few miles an hour. If you know Officer so-and-so is in the facility that day, well, you might think of how you speak to Ms. Kramer after the hallway, or what kind of conversations you have with your friends. So I think it's going to be a very positive thing. St. Mary's has had one for many, many years, and I know it's been a very positive thing for their district.
We had one in Celina for a long time.
the county is also very agreeable to them having some time out at the TriStar facility as well, even though that's outside the city of Celina.
Great. Anything that you wanted to say any further about the attachment there, Dr. Kent?
At this point, we already covered that his main location is going to be out at Celina High School. Certainly, if there are urgent items happening in town where the city police need extra support, that he would let us know and he would head there to help support, as well as if we would happen to need extra support at the school, he could call for extra support in the city, as they always have in the past.
And in the summer, they become just a city officer. That's correct.
Correct? Yes.
I'm assuming they'll have use of a car. That will be.
They will have a car that will be parked at the location they are currently at, yes.
Do you want to talk about resolution number 3, the career advising policy?
Right. Did I mention number 2? We do have a settlement
Oh, I'm sorry.
there
I'm
with
sorry. Yes,
TSI. So we've reached a settlement with them. The career advising policy is just one every other year we need to go through. So we did similar in the agenda as far as something that we just have to regularly do to check the box. This again is one of those pieces that we continue to go back over the career advising policy to see if there were any changes. At this point, there are no changes recommended for that policy.
Good. Let's start report. Maybe if you have anything, or Dr. Penn.
There is the attachment also on the following page, number 2. We are requesting approval for the submission of the continuation grant, year number 3. So that goes until November 30th of 2022 for project planning period, December 19th through November 2024. This application asks for the continuation of Head Start services for Mercer County, Ohio, serving 158 children. Just over $1.9 million is designated for Head Start operations. $19,232 is designated for training and technical services. This request includes a waiver for a non-federal match for program year 21-22. Amy Esser, did you have any comments this evening?
Just in my report, I attached what they being the Office of Head Start, has granted us as fiscal flexibilities due to the pandemic, and one of them is the non-federal match waiver, so that's why I'm asking for board approval for that. And also, they're allowing us to do an abbreviated version of our grant, like I did last year, so it's more simplistic, it's easier to submit.
Biggest difference, we are looking to go back to the 158 full enrollment.
Right.
Otherwise, where were we again last year?
We served 100 children last year. So the expectation is that we serve the 158 for full enrollment, and that our program looks like it did prior to COVID. So we are 100% in-person services with our classroom set up like they were prior to COVID.
Do you suspect that we'll get to 158 pretty easily?
Not pretty easily, but we will get there.
Has that been our max?
Yes. Yes.
Is that determined by facility, county, or yes?
It's determined by your, I do a community needs assessment, takes in a lot of data, and then I determine how many eligible Head Start children are in your community, and I put that in the original grant application that I do. And they fund us per child for that.
Any other questions or comments on the resolutions or the Head Start report? Okay, I don't see anything on the TriStar report or Mr. Busher, so let's go ahead and.
We did cover the TriStar, Tim Busher's contract earlier, and also the donation under the treasurer's report. Carol Henderson has walked in. Did you, besides showing off your tan, did you have? Good to see you, Carol.
At this time, I'll entertain any removal of the consensus agenda. Hearing none, let's go ahead and call the roll for approval of the consensus agenda.
Mr. Huber?
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees?
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich?
Yes.
Mr. Sal?
Yes.
Mr. Flack?
Yes. Passes there. Let's move down to other business. We have OASBA. Mr. Sell, you said you'd be interested and thrilled to be the delegate to OASBA this year.
After you twisted my arm, yes.
I believe it was excited.
Thank you. And Mr. Huber agreed to be the alternate. Last year, the OASBA is Ohio School Boards Association. They have a yearly meeting. It's in Columbus. The meeting looks at things like voting on the Ohio School Board Association policy agendas and things that they might work for. For example, the OASBA was instrumental in helping pass the fair funding bill in Columbus, so things like that, fair funding for the education. We don't know whether that'll be online at this time. My gut says they try and move it back in person, but who knows? So thank you, gentlemen, for being willing to do that. Mr. Sell served as the delegate. Mr. Huber as the alternate. I'll go ahead and make that motion if we could have a second.
I'll second.
We'll go ahead and get Mrs. Gingrich on the board here. And then we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Flack?
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich?
Yes.
Mr. Huber?
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees?
Yes.
Mr. Sal?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. At this time, we'll, Dr. Ken, for supplementals that were removed from consensus agenda.
Yes, asking you to approve the supplemental contract for Erica Dreiss as the math department head. Now, item number C, asking you to approve a stipend payment of $125 per day or 7 hours or $17.85. Also for Erica Dreiss, coming to a total of $71.40 for the high school summer professional development curriculum camp.
Do we need to do these as two different motions, or can we lump them in one?
It looks like we need to do them as they are listed as two separate, so excuse me, I shouldn't have jumped.
I'll
to
make a
the second.
motion for B, for second B.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. We've got that there. Let's go ahead and call the roll, Tom.
Was that Mrs. Gingrich on the second?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Huber?
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich?
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees?
Yes.
Mr. Sal?
Abstain.
Mr. Flack?
Yes. And number C, can I get a motion?
I make a motion.
Barb? And Carl. Anytime.
Mrs. Voorhees?
Yes.
Mr. Huber?
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich?
Yes.
Mr. Flack?
Yes.
Mr. Sal?
Abstain.
We have informational items. Eric, do you want to give us some information on the facilities as well as the, like on the
Yes.
environmental study?
Sure.
financing request. They have all that sorted out. I talked to Valerie Montoya today. So they got a handle on, they know what districts need funding and what the funds are. There was a lot of additional requests because of the recent things that we've seen with construction and increase in prices. So they're still tracking to, by August sometime, having a better handle on when people will get their funding. She said there's a couple meetings later this week with the finance department. So hopefully in August, we can give you a better idea of the funding. She's really hopeful that it's going to be this fall sometime. Second on the survey, Access Engineering is proceeding with the survey work. They're 75% complete. With the field work they're doing, they're waiting on some location by OOPS on utilities. And so you won't see much this week. They have a couple people out on vacation, but they should have that done this summer. The next is the phase 1. So this is another, the state's supportive of doing all the site surveying and those kind of reports that are needed for design. And so one of those is a environmental site assessment. So it's just looking historically at your properties, if there would be anything underground or anything environmentally that there would be a concern. So that's the process they go through. We did get 3 quotes for you, and PSI was the low quote. They're located in the Lima area, so their quote was $2,350. We also had quotes from TTL and CTL.
With their quote being so much lower, did they know what they were doing?
Yeah, we questioned them. We work with all 3 of these companies.
I didn't mean what they're doing. Like, did they get the scope of the project?
Yes, we questioned them on that. They were recently purchased, I don't know exactly when, by a national company called Intertech. So they reaffirmed that they understand the scope, their numbers are good. We're assuming that because they have the backing of this national company, they can offer lower pricing and things.
Okay. Yeah, the scope of the work is better than what they're doing. I apologize for saying it that way. Yeah, no, I didn't mean it that way. I spoke with Representative Matt Huffman's office last week in an effort to use every resource we have available to the district to try and figure out, just to get more information from the OFCC. They are, as I'm coming to find out, pretty tight-lipped on funding and that kind of thing. But Tom, do you want to just share, we cannot move forward with securing the bonds until we at least know the funding date from the OFCC, is that correct?
Correct. Our bond counsel basically has said we can't move forward until we get the okay because we run the risk of losing our tax exempt status.
Which is important for a school district. But the big thing is if they come in August and say, we're gonna fund you in October or November, then we can move forward because we know at that point, is that correct?
I think I understand it. Once they give us the approval, we'll have the project agreement signed by them and by us, and we can move forward right away.
Okay. So we are again, it's a broken record, but I was speaking with Mr. Baltill today. I said this is almost as excruciating as waiting for the vote for the project. We all want to get it going, but again, we've got to wait for this. So, any questions for Mr. Baltill or
Any idea in August? Early August?
Well,
We don't want to put you on the
it's
spot.
not for sure, yeah, but if they're having their meetings this week, I would certainly hope it's more towards the beginning of August.
Certainly thank Senator Huffman's office too for getting back with us and trying to help out and getting a hold of.
Any return call from State Representative Manchester's office?
I did not call her for this. So Senator Huffman got back so quickly that they said they'd get it. And then I heard from the OFCC last week and heard a lot of, we look forward to telling you when we know to tell you, and we will tell you, but not right now, but we will. So and they're very, very kind in that. So, any other informational items?
Just an update on the field house project. The painting is complete. The new lighting, the LED lighting is complete throughout the facility. So now we just have majestic flooring coming in to complete the floor work. And we also have 2 large ceiling fans that need to be installed.
Take a look.
I do want to say we have 2 birthdays. Happy birthday to Mr. Kevin Sandler, the big 5-0, and happy birthday, Mr. Sell, the big 7-5. Yeah, I think it was something like that, right?
Close.
Yeah.
So close. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. I said, what better birthday would you rather have than a Celina education?
This is it.
This is where it is. So, happy birthday, gentlemen. Cheers to many more. So, at this time,
I'd like to say thank you to Mrs. Coombs for all her years of service. She was my daughter's teacher this past year, and she really enjoyed it and made it enjoyable for the struggling year it was. So I just want to say good job.
that's great.
Very nice.
At this time, we have an executive session on our agenda. Dr. Ken, I don't believe there'll be any action after. Is that correct? Or should I not say?
I don't think you should say that. I'm kind of hoping that there will be action.
Okay, well, that's the teaser for those online, and Dr. Ken can follow up with those in the media so you don't have to wait around. But at this time, I'd entertain a motion to enter executive session under number 2, employment.
So move.
Mr.
Second.
Sell? Okay, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Sell?
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees?
Yes.
Mr. Huber?
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich?
Yes.
Mr. Flack?
Yes. All right, we will enter executive session at 6:36 PM, and we will be meeting in the superintendent's conference